this. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting, and I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, through you, sir. The lands we know today as the Township of Centre Wellington have been home to Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We acknowledge that they're on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. With increasing encroachment by non-Indigenous settlers in the Township of Centre Wellington, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee could not continue their traditional lifestyle and settled in their villages along the Credit River and in the Grand River Valley. These Indigenous nations uphold their treaty rights within our jurisdiction. Today, the Township of Centre Wellington remains home to Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We're grateful to have the opportunity to share and to respect Mother Earth and are committed to building constructive nations.
Thank you, Councillor Evoy. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Councillor Welton.
Hi, yes, thank you, Mayor Waters. I have to disclose a pecuniary interest with item 4.2. My husband, Pierre Chauvin, is a partner at MHBC Planning, and he is providing planning services for this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Welton. Now we'll move down to the purpose of the meeting. So for item 4.1, RZ 003-24 6829 5th line West Scariffraxa. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to change the zoning from A, agricultural and EP, environmental protection, to A, agricultural exemption and EP, environmental protection on the retained parcel to restrict residential uses. Furthermore, the amendment seeks to recognize the height of the existing accessory building, barn, measuring 8.7 meters. The effect on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to implement zoning regulations necessarily severance and to recognize existing buildings on the severed parcel. The zoning amendment is a condition of approval of the County of Wellington Land Division Committee application B6-24. The subject land is known municipality as 6829 5th line West Scariffraxa. And we have here a presentation provided by, got one more thing to read before I get ahead of myself. If a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the person or the public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Centre Wellington to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT. If a person or a public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the persons or public body may not be added as the party to hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If anyone wishes to be notified of the adoption of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, a written request must be filed with the municipal clerk, Township of Centre Wellington, 1 McDonald Square, Elora, Ontario, NOB 1SO. Clerk, how was notice given?
Notice was mailed to prescribed persons, agencies, and public bodies on or before July 25th, 2024, and a copy of the notice was advertised in the Wellington Advertiser on July 2024, and I can confirm the requirement for giving notice was completed on July 25th, 2024.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the planner. I'd like to call Jeff Boozman, who's remote and virtual from Van Harten Survey, to introduce the application.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and public. My name is Jeff Boozman. This is for a surplus farm resident severance. It's been explained well in the introduction. I don't know if I'm a pictorial person. If there's an opportunity to put the graphic of the sketch on the screen, that'd be great. If not, I can just continue to speak to it. It's a surplus farm resident severance of about 2.2 hectares. Includes the buildings and so on that were in the area. It was configured to make sure that no farmland would be included in the severance. And so the purpose of this zone change is to rezone the farmland not to have a dwelling. And then also, while we're at it, there is a barn, and to deal with the height of the barn so that recognize its height of 8.7 meters. instead of the requirement of 6.7. I'd be happy to answer any questions or if there's any comments from council or public. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Was there any registered delegations?
No.
Nope. Is anyone present to speak to the application? Okay, seeing none. Response from the application offers the applicant or staff an opportunity to respond, comments, questions raised. Nope. Questions from council. Is there any questions from council as it speaks to this? Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. May I ask the reason for the surplus or the severance?
The surplus farm resident severance, the primary purpose of these kinds of severances is that a farmer in the area wants to buy additional farmland, but doesn't really want the house. So in this case, they buy the farmland, not the house. At the end of the day, it's a cheaper, they don't have to buy the house and then rent out the house and so forth. So this policy has been in place for a number of years in this township and county. And I've handled many of them, probably 30 of them in Center Wellington, and they've all gone quite well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council? Okay, seeing none. So at this point, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and advise council that we'll be considering the bylaw at a future council meeting. I declare this meeting adjourned, and we'll move on to the next meeting or the next matter. Thank you, Jeff, for attending, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we move into the next public meeting, and the purpose of this public meeting is to present and receive public input regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment on subject land known as 750 St. David Street North in the town of Fergus. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to change the zoning from R1C residential to R4 residential. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to facilitate the construction of a stacked townhouse development consisting of 12 residential units. If a person or a public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the persons or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Township of Centre Wellington to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or makes written submission to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the persons or public body may not be added as the party to the hearing of appeal before the OLT, unless it is the opinion of the tribunal. There are reasonable grounds to do so. If anyone wishes to be notified of the adoption of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, a written request must be filed with the municipal clerk, Township of Centre Wellington, 1 McDonald Square, Elora, Ontario, NOB. How was this, how we were revised, the notice was given? How was that provided?
A notice was mailed to prescribed persons, agencies, and public bodies on or before August 22nd, 2024. Also, a copy of the notice was advertised in the Wellington Advertiser on August 22nd, 2024. I can therefore confirm the giving of notice was completed on August 22nd, 2024.
Okay, so I'm going to, at this point, call on Pierre Chauvin from MHBC, planning to introduce the application and provide a presentation. Welcome, Pierre.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I have a slide presentation that I'll be going through. And I did receive also this letter today in petition with 107 names on it as well, so which I believe you'll hear about later this evening. My name is Pierre Chauvin. I'm a partner and a planner at the planning consulting firm MHBC Planning out of Kitchener. This application is made on behalf of a numbered company, but there is an actual person behind that company, and he's here this evening. His name is Chris Smiley. He's with me this evening. As with the project architect from Fryatt Turner, Robert Turner, he is here as well. And some of the images I'll be presenting this evening are his images, so I can't take credit for that. Just the next slide, if I can advance this. There we go. Everybody may know where this property is, but it is on the corner of St. David Street and Parkside. It's on the northeast corner of Parkside Drive and St. David Street, within the city's urban area. I would say within a very highly developed corridor along St. David Street, which also forms part of Highway 6, a provincial highway. And provides an important link through not only the town, but across the broader community. This particular property, as you can see on this image, is very small. Little red outline is the property, and those concentric circles, again, I've shown similar images like this to you before on other applications, represent a 5 and a 10-minute walking distance from the property, and those are generally meant to be illustrative of sort of what is sort of a walkable distance and a convenient distance from the property to other amenities or other services. In this case, you can see within that walking distance, not only is that all that pink area, which is all the highway commercial, there's the Walmart, other food stores in the area. There's the Catholic school, the future high school, the church to the north, and a number of other commercial services up and down St. David Street. And again, even just beyond that 10-minute walk, just to the south of that image, as you would all know, is the downtown core of Fergus. So very walkable. As well as to a number of community facilities and parks and whatnot in the area. So in our view, this is a very walkable place and an appropriate location for this type of development. It is, as you can see on this image, kind of a hole in the donut of that corridor. This is one of the only sort of residential stretches, from the beer store. This is one little stretch here that is still residential, which probably in the fullness of time could have gone to commercial, but I think in your official plan, it simply recognized the existing residential development pattern that was there and designated it residential, which is good from our perspective in the sense that this proposal is a residential development. And it is encouraged in your official plan to, as well as provincial policies, to intensify within our urban areas to help curb urban sprawl, protect our farmland, maximize our existing infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So this is essentially that. This is a small intensification of an existing residential property, which is occupied by a single detached dwelling. And on a very large lot, it's privately serviced right now, and we will be able to provide or convert that one residential dwelling into 12 dwellings. That's 12 families that can be accommodated in our community. So the zoning application that's before you is really changing the zoning bylaw from the R1C to R4 zone, and I'll speak to some of those regulations in a minute that we will be seeking. But as I mentioned, this is what I call a classic infill development. We recognize it's change. But it's in my view, this is an appropriate location for this change. We're not right in the middle of an established residential neighborhood. We're on an arterial road. That's well served from a traffic standpoint. This arterial road, yes, we recognize St. David Street. It can be quite congested at times, but it is designed in size to accommodate this flow of traffic. And that is with this development, we have completed a traffic study. And with the amount of units that we're proposing, the traffic volumes that are anticipated here is about 5 trips in the a.m. mornings and 8 trips in the evening. So not a lot of trips, traffic generated from these 12 units. And that traffic study, as a result, didn't recommend any traffic improvements associated to accommodate this proposed development on any particular roads in this area. I should note that your own master plan, the transportation master plan, did recognize that this stretch of St. David Street there is a pretty high volume, and in the fullness of time, that will continue to get exacerbated without a bypass. So there are, and I think the master plan looks at options to fix that. But I think in the grand scheme of things, these 12 units are not going to upset the apple cart at this point in time, but it's certainly something that's already on your radar in terms of what to be done and what to be improved over the long term, because there will be more development beyond this that will be exacerbating that traffic problem. This development will be consisting of 12 two-bedroom units. They'll all have their own private entrance and private amenity in the form of balconies. Much of the parking is going to be hidden and behind the building off of St. David, which is a good thing, instead of seeing it from St. David Street. And it provides better housing options, newer, more housing options on our community in terms of the form of rental housing in this particular case. This next image is just a schematic of the proposed site plan, and St. David Street is on the left-hand side of the image. Parkside Drive is on the bottom of the image, and you can see we've the current house that's there, I would say, is probably more centered on the property. Behind the property to the east, and also on the right-hand image of this, there is actually a walkway that's owned by the school board. So that treed area that you see there is a walkway within that laneway, and that acts as a nice buffer or transition between our site and the established neighborhood, I'll call it, behind us on Parkside Drive East. To the north again is the church. To the south is Parkside Drive, and there's also on the opposite side of Parkside Drive is an existing apartment. So very similar in form in terms of housing form, just on the opposite side of this road. And obviously interfacing with us is commercial uses in the form of some retail and service commercial uses. I would note that your new bylaw on highway commercial uses does allow 5 stories. In those highway commercial uses. This particular building is, even though the R4 allows up to 5, we are not proposing that. This is going to be a 3-story building. And should we need to adjust the bylaw to do that, to specify that, I don't think we have an issue with that. As you can see, the access is off of Parkside Drive. Currently, the access is off of St. David, but the access to the parking lot in this configuration is off of Parkside, and it's actually lined up opposite the existing parking lot to that apartment. I believe it's at 740 St. David Street, opposite this development. So I think the intention, it would be I think the township would prefer not to have driveways on St. David to help that traffic flow, and that's what this will help alleviate. And with that, that'll provide access to the 18 parking spaces, which is compliant with your bylaw with respect to the number of parking spaces relative to the number of units. And lastly, there will be also indoor bicycle storage and lockers and those types of things to provide alternative forms of transportation. I should note on your transportation master plan, I do believe Parkside Drive is actually identified as a future bike lane road. So with future bike lanes to be developed on that road. Just one minor note on the size of those units. They're going to be about 800 to 900 square feet in terms of size. Pardon me? Can't hear you. Sorry. I'll try to speak louder. These next slides are just renderings. This is just schematic at this point. We're not at site plan, but this is just to give you an impression of what it'll look like from St. David Street in terms of scale and mass. You know, a typical type of stacked townhouse development with front porches. In this case, there'll be porches not only on St. David Street, but you can see on this image, this is from the parking lot, but on the left is the Parkside Drive, and there's another entrance off of Parkside Drive. And then this is just a bird's eye view of that same sort of vantage point. And you can, relative to the surrounding development. And so in terms of the zoning that we're asking for, we've highlighted some of the special provisions or reductions that we're looking to achieve. And some of those relate to the setbacks, the front yard and rear yard. And that's really meant to help push the building closer to the street, to help create a more pedestrian-friendly street environment, rather than being set back the way it is right now, that existing building, how it's well set back from the street. So we're looking to push the building closer to the street frontage. So some reductions there with respect to the front yard and exterior side yard. There is a minor reduction in the common amenity area, that green space you saw on the site plan. And then we're asking for some reductions on the private amenity, the balcony areas, and the parking setback. That's really to the road. So some really, in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion, they're very minor reductions. And that's really what we're requesting. And as I noted before, in terms of the building height, if there is a desire to cap that, given the R4 zoning provisions on the building height, we're certainly willing to consider that to recognize if there's any concerns there. Again, I'm not going to go through our planning opinion, but we're here in support of it, and we believe it certainly meets all the provincial and local planning policies. This 3-story building complies with the R4 zoning, and this is a good way to sort of maximize and efficiently use your existing infrastructure with this minor infill development. And with that, I'll conclude, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'll maybe be on standby if there are questions that come up through the public as well.
Thanks, Pierre. So we'll go to delegations, and then we'll come back that way. So I'm going to reach out to the audience there, and I have on my list Lorna Picard. Is Lorna here? Yep. Would you like to come up, Lorna? Welcome, Lorna.
Thank you. Do I leave it there or move it down?
It's up. It's probably better to move it down a little bit. Then we probably get a.
Okay. Yeah. I live at 140 Parkside Drive East. I've been there for 45 years, and that area is a very congested area, and it's very difficult exiting Parkside Drive East, even going north, but the difficulty is going south. I've written a letter to the township, to these councillors, and I'd like to read the letter for the audience benefit. It's regarding the application of file number RZ04/24 and the application of 750 St. David Street North, Highway 6, to amend the zoning from R1C residential, which is one dwelling, to R4 residential exception, which permits multiple dwellings. We are in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the following reasons. And I went around and I got 107 names on the petition. In our notice of complete application and public meeting, it states that the zoning bylaw amendment is to facilitate the construction of a stacked townhouse development consisting of 12 residential units. But in the application, it mentions 12 to 20 stacked townhouses. The driveway behind where the children entered to the Catholic school or the Catholic church, it's used by by the children by walking, biking, skateboarding, and it's this driveway, the new owners of that property, if they can buy it from the building, will be the stacked townhouses will be 20 townhouses. The number of parking spaces is not adequate, with only, and also the handicap parking is only for one person, and you have to factor in visiting parking spaces also. Parkside Drive East is a busy street where parking is only allowed on one side, the south side. That's where I live, on the south side. There are already challenges with street parking because most homes have 2 or more cars. Some homes have 5 cars. They are parking on their lawn, crossways at the bottom of the driveway, and on the boulevard. The street is always full. You might view it during the day and it wouldn't be full, but at nighttime it is. This becomes especially challenging at times with cars lined the entire street from visitors and residences using the street parking. Adding additional residences at this property will certainly put additional strain on street parking, increasing the risk for street traffic and safety to children crossing and using the street on bicycles. Notably, with a pedestrian access to the Catholic school directly east beside the property on Parkside Drive East. And that access must be about 20 feet wide. The St. David Street North and Parkside Drive are already a busy corner to try to drive out and turn left to go downtown. You have traffic coming north and turning left onto Parkside Drive West, coming north from the beer store at St. David Street North and Edinburgh Avenue, coming north as they pull out of Dixon Home Hardware, pulling out of Parkside Drive West and coming out of the Walmart and going south, where they only have a red yield sign, not a stop sign, and coming south on St. David Street North from the Walmart, St. Joseph's Catholic School, and the church, and St. Joseph Public School stoplight intersection. Plus, you always have walkers and children. All of these, you have to give them the right of way before turning left. It is interesting how this applicant would be able to change the entrance to 750 St. David Street North from Highway 6 to an entrance from Parkside Drive East, when a neighbor on Parkside Drive East was not allowed to widen his curb entrance to his driveway by a few feet when he was paving the driveway. And that's in recent years. Parkside Drive East should have marked parking on the street to prevent parking too close to the intersection at St. David Street North. And there should be a sign, "No parking here to corner." The township parking bylaw prohibits parking on streets in Fergus, Center Wellington, between 2 and 6 from November to April for snow clearance. The OPP are supposed to enforce parking on one side of the street, only the south side, and no overnight parking on the street during the winter. The township is to enforce the Planning Act. Snow removal. Where is the snow from the parking area going to be stored or pushed to during the winter? Lighting for the parking at the rear of the lot What type of lighting is there going to be for the parking? Is there going to be motion detectors? Is the lighting going to cause light pollution for the neighbors? Removal of mature trees. Mature trees are valuable. They give shade, habitat and food for birds, absorb carbon dioxide, etc., and release oxygen. Are mature trees going to be cut down? If so, replacement should be in the planning. We do not see this building as being in compliance with our neighborhood, respectfully. And I made a list of additional comments as I was going around. And I had somebody else helping me going around too. So they wrote additional comments. We need stop signs at Highway 6 and Parkside Drive. Stoplights, I'm sorry. Already a congested area. It's dangerous traffic. We don't need this development. Parking, traffic, and house. I think it's supposed to be noise. Sorry. Keep our streets safe for our children. Congestion, no parking, path to school. Too much construction, traffic congestion, an accident to happen without a light. Too much congestion on Parkside. Not enough room, too much in that space. No room, no parking. Don't want them parking in front of my house. Street is busy enough as it is. Too constricted. We are already getting too busy. We don't need more. Very busy intersection, hard enough to navigate that intersection. Multiple businesses on that corner already. Not a good location. Too busy already. Too many housing developments already. We used to have a push button stoplight near that intersection, but it was taken away and lights were put in at Walmart. Now they can exit Walmart on a red yield there. I just want to note that it has been a busy intersection in that area for quite a while. And also, people that I went around with that letter that I received from the township, and people had not received a copy. It's only given to about 6 houses down the street. And all the other people, they use that exit to the highway. So I don't know if you can amend your rules, but anyway, I just want to make note that there's a lot of unhappy people. There was a lot of people supposed to be coming here today, but 6 o'clock on Wednesday doesn't always suit everybody. Okay. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you think it over well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna, for your presentation. Is there any of the other folks in the audience who'd like to speak? Yes, please come forward and maybe you could indicate your name and your address, please. And I provided Lorna more than 10 minutes, but
I won't
basically, yeah. So.
Hi, sorry about that. Thank you. My name is Charity Curtis. I live at 217 Parkside Drive East. First, I'd like to say thanks for letting me be here. Didn't know I had to sign in. First, wanted to say that yes, I am back new in this neighborhood. I have only been here for a few months, but to give note of why I'm very much objecting this is because 4 years ago, I did move to Vancouver and have recently moved back. But before that, I lived 6 years to the house right beside me. So I'm very versed in this neighborhood. So there was some interesting things that were said by this gentleman. Not that I'm disagreeing with a lot that he said. Yes, there's major housing crisis in Fergus. We all know this. But what I am very much against is the plan. I disagree fully of the parking and moving the driveways on Parkside Drive. Now, yes, I did listen very clearly of what you said about taking the time to see what cars are going in and out. Obviously, it's in the middle of the day when you do this, because anybody who knows Fergus, that is a hardworking town, they leave early in the morning and come back normally between 5 and 7. And this is where the problems seem to be. So yes, parking is a major problem, just as though the last lady said. Not only is the problem of the parking on the street, but the proposed driveways coming off of Parkside Drive. Not only is there a major crisis right now with the parking, is if anybody's ever been to Parkside Drive, and I do recommend that all of the council take a drive over there in the evening, the parking is almost right up to the street. And so when I come home and I turn onto Parkside from David Street, I have to drive on the other side of the street to go around the first 6 houses. And I can't see what's coming down the road because it curves. So again, not that I'm against the building, which I am, but not that I'm fully against it. I completely 100% disagree with your version of taking a look at the problem with traffic and parking. I'm completely against it, not only because I see the children going to and from school and back and forth, and it's the same problem. Parents are already scared about that corner. It's very unsafe. It's a shame the little push light was put out, which I think has to go back in. I think it should be on a priority list for the council to reconsider the push light to walk through. I think that's needed. But I was also listening to this gentleman about the access to the park. There's a beautiful park behind the church that, from what I hear since I've been back, there's been proposals of getting rid of that park, which is quite shocking as well, but that's another issue. But again, I believe the pictures that were presented or the proposed drawings of the pictures are not realistic. And I need to really put it into all the council's minds of why I'm against this and why I went to a lot of the neighbors and not one person is for this, even though they all agree about the housing shortage. I think that we would be able to listen and agree if another plan comes, a proposed plan comes, of keeping the driveways off of Highway 6 with the push light. Because again, if you ever want to just drive over there, you'll see exactly the problem. Yes, and I disagree about the side, so doing the side backs, about pushing back the greenery in front that has been proposed as well. Again, because of this area and the drive, the vehicles up there need that space to turn. Again, you're going to be okaying or not okaying this proposal, and you're going to be, hopefully not, it's knock on wood, that kids will not get hurt. That elderly people, there's a lot in the neighborhood. Now, I don't have kids, I don't, but I have a dog person. However, I get intimidated going down there. So normally I go about 8 houses down and turn around and walk the other way. That's how much people don't like that corner. I think it has to be seriously thought at about the dangers of what this proposal is doing. And again, not to say fully no about this building, even though I'm against it, but again, The driveways are a huge issue, and I really urge this council to decline the R4 rezoning until new plans get out. We're doing that on the Highway 6. Another big point that brought up that I was going to bring up, but I'm glad the last lady did, is about me being in Vancouver, the light pollution. And when you're in your house and the lights are on in the parking lot, it's not just the next door neighbor that can see it. So maybe reconsidering putting the parking lot on 6, where it's facing the parking lot of Home Hardware or the liquor store, or things that close at a certain time and that we don't have to see lights, might be in the next proposal. Where's the snow removal going to go? I remember when I was here for the 6 years, it was already a huge problem. I mean, so I won't go into too much more because the last speaker said a lot and went over everything. So I would just want to say thank you. And again, I'm just hoping that this council will decline this rezoning and maybe put forth an option to redo some plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak? Yes, please come forward. Oh, sorry. Yes, you come forward. Yes, whoever would. Please come forward. Could you please mention your name and your location, please?
My name is Bernice Robinette. I live on 26 Bellamy Crescent. I think what the council needs to do is take an overall picture of this area. There is still the question of what's going to happen to the Donnelly Moore property if they don't lease it. I'm sure they're going to sell it and put how many more units. We're at 218 units if they go 12 in that 3-block area. I know we need dense intensification. I know we need housing, but it's got to be planned better. The infrastructure is not going to take it. The traffic on 6, the road itself at Parkside, don't try and drink a coffee if you're going down it. I'm telling you, it needs to be looked at without just blinders. You have to look at the whole picture. And we are putting more retail, more residential, possibly another school. And it's not just going to be those 2 blocks because everything comes out. It's a mature neighborhood and it's affecting everyone, not just that little section. You need a broader view of the implications of making this change. And I agree that the driveway onto Parkside is not a good issue. It's kids walk there, they walk, the whole classes walk by. It's really not the place to put it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please come on up. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this? Yes, please come on up. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Chris Kupfer. I live at 149 Parkside Drive East. I live right across from Lorna Bevkar. I've known her for years. I've lived on the street for 12 years, almost 13. From Toronto originally, and I am all for urban planning and housing, but I wasn't going to be here tonight. I was at home. My son's over in karate right now with Sensei Barb, and I got to go pick him up. But after watching this online for a little bit, it's important that I'm here. I have a 10 and 8-year-old that go to St. Joseph Catholic High School or St. Joseph Catholic School, backing right onto the school. They have just added on to the school. I'm very good friends with Todd Goodwin, who is the principal of the school. And I'm known as the sheriff. I watch over it with my backyard. Sir, I understand that we need housing in this area. Everyone needs housing. Putting this townhouse where you would like to put it, I'm going to be blunt, is absolutely ludicrous. Ludicrous. I don't care what studies you've done for traffic. I don't care what time you've been there. Please come on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock and make a left-hand turn. You'll be there for 20 minutes. They are putting up another big development just north of there, just on the other side of the Esso. And the urban sprawl that they've done so far over the past 12 years is huge. The money, what we really need is infrastructure. As I was stated, it is, you need an off-road vehicle to go north and south on St. David right now. If you want to have water, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I work in the communications industry. I build infrastructure for Bell Rogers TELUS. We build their towers. We do broadcast. I do stuff with the Zoom stuff here. You try having water pressure at 6 o'clock in the morning because of all the housing that has been put in this area. And I have 50 PSI that come into my house right now. Guarantee it's about 20 when I try to get water in the morning because everyone that has not been updated. Now let's get to the street. Parking on that street feels like I'm on a one-way street in downtown Toronto at Yonge and Church. It is so small. And there's only parking on one side of the street. And as around 6 o'clock at night, it is absolutely packed all the way from St. David, going east, all the way down to Victoria Terrace. And now with the construction that's going to be going on, I don't believe it's going to be done by December 2025, by the way, or this year. It's going to be longer on the St. David Street reconstruction. It has turned into a drag strip. You've got cars that are going down there 50, 60 kilometers an hour, 70 kilometers an hour sometimes. And that's in a short run going east from St. David over to Garifraxa. My kids are 8 and 10. Getting rid of that walkway, you are putting children's lives at stake. Putting a driveway facing south onto Parkside Drive. My children every morning, you're from Kitchener, you don't live in the area. We do. My children cross that every day to go to school. If this is put in place. The outline that you have for the drawings, that's not even close to what it's going to look like. The parking is going to be insane. The driveways are insane. Another house up there. You don't need a townhouse there. They say it's 12 units. Okay, 12 units. Take into account average 2 people per unit. 18 parking spots. My mom's handicapped. She's blind, immobile. My dad uses a handicap spot. 1 handicap spot. Okay. Take into account maybe these people are going to have, I'll be out of the have 2 cars. That's 12 right there. 8, 12 units. You're going to be about 20 vehicles. Everyone has 2 vehicles these days, if they're a family. Where are they going to park? There's no space to park right now. And again, lights need to be put there. It is not, I'm very blunt sometimes and I apologize, but I'm very passionate. Like I said, I was going to be here. I made sure I was here after I heard some of this. At 12, 3-story townhouse, you're putting a square into a circle in that little small spot and removing that pathway for safe passage for dog walkers, bikes, children walking to that school. You are going to put people's lives at risk. But all I have to say, I really hope this council decides not to let this amendment go through and keep the zoning the way it is. there are lots of other places that a townhouse like this could be put. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I wish you the best in the future, sir, and yourself.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak further to this? Okay. So right now, I'd like to offer the applicant or staff an opportunity to respond to the comments, questions raised. So, Pierre, if you'd like to speak to that, or staff clarifications.
Sure. There are a few things I'd like to respond to. I guess I'll start with, I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't get your last name, but thank you. I do live here. I do live in this community. I lived in this community for over 30 years. And I actually drive this road, this portion of St. David, quite often. So I know it very well. And I do admit it is a very busy stretch of road. Certainly change is not always wanted. And that's what this is. We have done the studies by professionals, and those are being reviewed by the township. And in terms of the road improvements, if there are ever on St. David, that's really up to the township to plan for. As far as I know, I'm not aware of any plans for improvements other than what's going on St. David Street now in terms of the infrastructure improvements, but that's my understanding is only going up to Edinburgh. If there are any further improvements, I think would be a welcome addition. Having said all that, this development, like I said before, isn't going to tip the scales in our view. The question on lighting and snow removal and removal of trees, all those matters are matters of site plan. I can tell you that with the lighting, there is typically a lighting plan that's prepared. That a professional engineer prepares to ensure that the light doesn't cast off the property and it stays directionally focused on our development and our property. Snow removal, again, that will be stored on site. If it can't be stored, it will be trucked off. Removal of trees, we hope to minimize any of that. Typically there's a tree retention plan, a tree management plan prepared as part of a site plan application. We fully anticipate that to occur. And if there are trees being removed, there will also be a landscape plan prepared whereby we have to replant trees on our property as well as along the boulevards. So that is typical of any development application. There was mention of removing the pathway that's owned by the school board. It's not our property. We're not intending to remove that pathway. We have had discussions, or our client has had discussions with the school board to see if they want to dispose of it. At this point, they do not. So that's why we're before you with the 12 units. The notion of 20 units, that was if we could get the pathway, but at this point, that's not before us. Access out to Parkside versus St. David. In my submission, I would say that it would be better to have the access out to Parkside. You want to try to minimize those. Typically on arterial roads, you want to minimize the amount of driveway entrances and people coming in and off of these, making turning movements in or out of a busy road like St. David Street. And you want to try to funnel those to the local streets such as Parkside Drive. So that's really, in my view, that is the better location, and it's opposite an existing driveway to an apartment. But again, we're in the hands of the township. If they view that that's something that they're willing to accept, then we can certainly look at that as an option. But that, again, is a site plan detail, and it's not really irrelevant to the zone change that's before you. I think those are my comments, and if my colleague, Mariana, wants to add anything to that, she can.
Yes, Mariana.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Waters. Just to add a few more comments to what Mr. Chauvin said, the staff is reviewing this application. So as we know tonight, there's no decision being made. And the reports and studies that we have received are right now under staff review and will be peer reviewed as well as needed by professional consultants that we retain. And that would include the traffic impact study. So there was some mention about how that study was done and what times of day. So that would all be looked at. And as well, our infrastructure services staff would certainly look at the entrances and accesses, what is preferred, and safety issues, sight lines, and all of that will be reviewed. So that will all come back as information to council before making a decision.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open up to council for questions or comments, starting with Councillor McDonald.
To you, Mayor Waters. Something that came to light was the water pressure. As someone who sits on that committee, I'm very invested in how our water is being used. And I think that's not a healthy part. So staff will be reviewing that.
Yes, through you, the infrastructure services staff are looking at the service extension. So services do need to be extended to this property, and that is part of the municipal infrastructure application permit and process. So they would look at that, and they would look at sizing of the servicing that needs to go in.
Okay. And I have a question for Pierre. Through you, Mayor Waters, to Mr. Chauvin. So the business Ontario, is the business owner here tonight? Pleasure to meet you.
They are.
Okay. Are they local? Can I ask
Yes.
that? Okay. And you bought a house in a subdivision that's already there, correct? Why not just leave it a house?
First of all, I didn't buy it. My client bought it.
Right.
But it's their prerogative. They're in the business of doing rental housing, and this is a large lot for a single detached house. If you look at it, 10,000 feet in the air, you could probably physically fit 4 homes or single detached lots on what is one lot right now. So it is underutilized in an urban area from a perspective, and again from all the policy direction that we're getting from the province, the county, and locally. We need to grow up. We need to grow in, or otherwise, in the mayor's words, we have to grow out.
And may I ask one more follow-up? Are these condos?
This will be rental.
Rental. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Evoy.
Thank you, through you, sir. Thank you to all the delegates for sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate hearing from our neighbors, and thank you, Mr. Chauvin. It occurs to me when we are facing what we have to do with regards to growth, that I agree with Mr. Chauvin's point. It is always difficult. But what I'm hearing, based on what I've seen here and what you guys have shared, I'm sure we could come to a compromise with regards to adding more creative lighting and more creative signage, perhaps reviewing the options of the kind of crosswalk thing that I don't know what the proper name is, that they're looking for. And it would occur to me that this is not an insurmountable problem. We do have to grow, and we recognize that. I would certainly rather see 3 than 4. So I'm grateful that you are willing to stop at the 3. And then I believe that with some communication, we can get through this. It's not going to be easy. It's always hard. We all live in the same area, and the growth is hard. We don't have a choice. We have to grow. So trying to find a way to grow that will honor the neighbors within that community, I would think that would be our primary goal.
Thanks, Councillor Evoy. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, I have a comment. Recently attended a big conference in Ottawa, and I can say that Center Wellington, we've approved a lot of housing, a lot, and we need funds for infrastructure first before we can keep growing. And I would far like to see the housing we've already approved get up and going, so we have a better idea of what we're looking at. Yes, when I was elected, I came out of the gate, we're going to approve housing. That is what we need, housing, housing, housing. However, we have approved an awful lot. And this one 3-story building altering a subdivision that is 45 years old, you know, it's kind of similar to old University Guelph area. You wouldn't stick a high rise in with residential homes with mature trees. And I just don't think that altering the existing subdivisions is very kind in our growth. Of course, we need to intensify. I just don't know if this is the right spot for it. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other comments, questions from council as it relates to this? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go into adjournment. I think that's it for tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and advise council will be considering a bylaw at the future council meeting. So we'll keep everyone apprised, and thank you for everyone for their participation tonight. Thank you. I declare this meeting adjourned.